My name is Judy Showalter, and it is December 14th, 2007. We're here today with Dr. Paul Wornom as part of the Randolph-Macon College Living Legacy Oral History Project. Dr. Wornom is from the class of 1937, and he is going to share some memories of Randolph-Macon with us today. Following his graduation from Randolph-Macon, Dr. Wornom worked for 8 years as a chemist and then went on to medical school at UVA and had a private family practice. Dr. Wornom, how did you first hear about Randolph-Macon College?
Well, I grew up hearing about it. The oldest brother had gone with that, and he graduated in 22, I think it was. I'm not sure exactly, it was 22, 23, but anyway. So as Methodists, we always went around Macon. So I've been hearing about it ever since I was old enough.
And you have several family members. Is your oldest brother, Herman.
And then the brother John, who went for 3 years, but he didn't graduate. And then Marchand, her father. And then the other brothers went to the University of North Carolina.
Can you tell us about your first trip to the campus?
I went for my oldest brother's graduation whenever that was, but I was 5 or 6 years old. I remember going up to that. And then I went to, in June of 33, I went to my brother Marchand's graduation. And I came as a patient in September.
I like that, patient. Can you tell us how did you afford a Randolph-Macon education? Do you remember how much a Randolph-Macon education cost?
Well, my last year I sort of did on my own, and it cost $550. Whatever, I kept a record of what I spent and how much I charged, because I had several scholarships, and then I worked more in the summer that year and made more money. So, but you got room and you got board, and it didn't have the dining room then. You ate out in boarding houses, and for $25 a month. But if you didn't take breakfast, it was only $20 a month for 2 meals. So that's how we got you with that. But, what was the other part of the question?
Was about the scholarships and the...
Oh. Yeah, after my first year, since I had 4 years in Latin, I got a fellowship for being assistant for that, and then meeting classes with Dr. Bowen when he didn't get back from Richmond in time or whatever. He'd usually come in on the train and decide something. But anyway, and then after 2 years of chemistry, I got what do they call them, assistants in the lab. And, so I had 2 of them. And at that time, along with it, you got a free pass on RF&P from Richmond to Washington. So I had 2. I wanted to get one. You could only get it one way. I wanted to get. So since I had 2, I thought I'd be entitled to one coming and going. But they wouldn't give me but the one. So I could get a pass to ride the train free and going into Richmond, but I had to come a ride going back.
Outside of the classroom, what activities did you participate in?
You mean scholastic college thing?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, up there at the Franklin, the Washington Literary Society, but we didn't meet often. I started working on the annual. Charlie Romaine was editor. I was working And then I started working on the newspaper, continued on with that, and was a co-editor my last year of the newspaper, the Yellow Jacket. But at that time, it only came out once a week. I don't know how often I have it now.
It's less than that now.
Oh.
It's supposed to be a weekly, but we don't see it that often.
Mm-hmm. So when I was the co-editor, get all the copy ready about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and walk down to Watkins printing shop, we printed the paper, and they'd get it out by noontime. And so we distributed it about 1 o'clock on Fridays. Have it available. But that was what they usually did. Bill Armstead, William Armstead III, had preceded me as editor. I worked with him. He decided not to graduate and went on to work for the Roanoke paper, and then ended up worked in Waynesboro, I think, and then ended up eventually with the Von Vanmark Publications as publisher of the Roanoke paper. And he retired and gave him money for the Armstead, what they call the building.
The Pace Armistead House?
Pace Armistead, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He and I started out in the same class. And other things else.
Well, your yearbook says you were the vice president of the Walter Hines Page Club, and we don't know what that was. We know who Walter Hines Page was, but we don't know what the club did. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that one.
Okay.
Because we had a chemistry group. And I forget what the name of that group was. They'd had one called Sigma Epsilon or something. It was supposed to be a literary group. That sort of disbanded at the time I came along. But the Walter Hines Page Club, I can't remember.
Yeah, the chemistry group is Chi Beta Phi.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know who they are.
I was president, I think, of that. They had a national meeting at Morris Harvey College in Huntington. And I remember it was over Christmas, and Dad gave me money to go out to that.
Wow.
But that was just 2-3 day meeting. First time I'd ridden much on the Septon overnight on the train. I'd ridden the train, but never slept on one. So, we got the train from, I was home for Christmas, so I got the train here. And had an overnight trip to Huntington in those days on the CMO. What else was that? Let's see. All time.
The other activity they list is your fraternity.
Yeah, it was a Pi Kappa Sigma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They lived in the dorms initially, and then one year I moved in a fraternity house, and then I went back to the dorm. Pi Kappa Sigma was a little better condition than I was at, and it turned out to become.
They're coming back, though.
Well, they're trying. But, anyhow, they still have the house. It was in the same place, but it was a different house.
Say it's
On College Avenue. See, they had when my oldest brother was there, they had a dining room, but then apparently they complained so about the food, they did away with it. And shortly before, I don't know whether Martian was there, they had it or not. But by the time I came, we ate out in town.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't any dining in the town.
So they had dormitories, but no dining hall.
Yeah, no dining.
I always assumed when you boarded you roomed and boarded.
I rode the Midwest across the street. But 2 doors from Dr. Ray's office. His office still there. He was a college physician.
Mm-hmm.
He had a son who became, well, a couple of sons became doctors, but his oldest one was Chase. He came back there and was a college physician for a long time. And I don't know, do they have a college physician now?
We have a medical office, and he's actually a nurse practitioner. And that's new. We hadn't had anything for a long time. We'd had to go into Ashland and use a local physician.
Oh.
But I guess 2 or 3 years ago, we did get.
Well, his office is on College Avenue, just directly across from the campus.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know he had an office adjoining his house. He had a big house, but he had 4 sons. Che was the oldest, and then Ed went into medicine when I was there. He was working at MCV. And Enid Ray was 3 years ahead of me. He became mayor of Ashland. Then a couple of years behind me was Bill Ray. He went into insurance and lived in Richmond. Eventually, I kept in touch with him till he died. But I didn't know they didn't the Rays around anymore.
I do not know.
But the house is still there. Is there a big house there?
It is. It's Dr. Scanlon has told me which house was Dr. Ray's house, but I'm not sure that I remember which house was Dr. Ray's house.
But he had an office on the side, so you didn't go in the main house in those days.
What about other people from the college? Who do you remember the most?
Well, I worked with Dr. Bowen, but he was a character taught Latin, and so I remember him. But I remember Dr. Webb too. English. I had an English major along with the chemistry major. Of course, Dr. Cannon was dean. He was teaching organic chemistry. And Dr. Updike was teaching analytical chemistry. Because of the math people were two Dr. Simpsons. Hanfenville and Gravette Simpson was younger. He stayed there for a while, and then he became president of Mary Washington, I think, later on. And Dr. Haley taught German. I remember I took German for 1 year.
I thought Dr. Haley taught Latin. He taught German? Okay.
Dr. Bowen taught Latin. And then I had French too. Dr. Anything, his name. Your brother, your father used to date his daughter. Can't remember his name now. But anyway, he taught French and Spanish. But they didn't have French and German the same year. You had to take 1 year you took French, next year you took German. They didn't have courses but every other year. That. And I don't know how often I had Spanish, but and of course everybody had to take Bible. Had 1 year Bible.
And who taught Bible?
Dr. Terry.
Dr. Terry.
George Terry, I think his first name.
Mm-hmm.
Do they still? Is that still a requirement?
No. Although I was a religious studies major, so I took a lot of Bible.
Oh.
It's still offered and it's still popular, but it's not required.
Oh. I wasn't popular, it was essential. So you took it what you wanted to now. But there were small groups. The total enrollment when I was at about 325. And you got to know everybody. You might not know all the names, but you knew they were there. Saw them around campus. And of course, you went to school 6 days a week. You didn't have Saturdays off. You avoided trying to get 8 o'clock classes if you could.
They still try to avoid getting 8 o'clock classes if they can.
But you tried not to get Saturday classes if you could. Some course you could take, you didn't have to take Saturday classes. All ones I took were regular Saturday classes. Like chemistry was 8 o'clock Saturday morning. And then you had lab in the afternoon. So I don't know how they learn anything now. They're at school so little.
So what did you do after graduation?
Well, originally I roomed with Ligon Jones, whose father was a lawyer in Hopewell. Was on the school board, and I was supposed to get a job with him. I didn't have a job, and he arranged me to teach history and physics at Hopewell High for $90 a month for 10 months. But I decided that I'd try something else, and a fellow a couple of years ahead of me, John Holman, had gone to was in chemistry, and he'd gone to work for DuPont in New Jersey, and I wrote him and asked him about any jobs up there. And he wrote back and gave me the name of the director of the lab, and so I wrote him, and he gave me an appointment to come up, which I did, and spent all day with him, and so he decided he'd give me a job, but I said, when do I start? And he said, well, you only get 2 weeks vacation, so you better take what you want beforehand. But so I wanted to say it was 1st September, and he said, well, we can use you this summer. So I ended up starting the 1st of August, and in New Jersey. And it was a big job. I got $140 a month.
Better than 90.
For that. It was better than the 90 a month in Hopewell. Of course, it cost a little more in New Jersey. But not that much more. So I did that for, let's say the war came along and I was essential. And, but by that time I decided I wasn't sure I wanted to stay in the industry. And, and at that time, the institute in Hoboken, New Jersey, I can't think of the name of it, was coming to University of Pennsylvania for so many days, and they'd give you these aptitude tests. So I found out about that, and went over there and spent the day doing tests. And they gave me a report that I should be a violinist, a surgeon, or an accountant.
It's an interesting combination. Yeah. Violinist, surgeon, or accountant.
And I don't know how it got to me to be a violinist. I had good finger dexterity.
Well, violinist and surgeon kind of go together. I get that.
Yeah. But I don't have anything. I'm practically tone. I can't tell one note from another. So I decided that I'd maybe see about medicine. So all through the war. We worked 6 hours, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. I started just, I got an answering machine. It's one of these, I'm probably going to tell me my car warranty has run out. I get those. If it's not that, they'll leave a message and I'll take care of it. Anyway, I was kidding what I was talking about.
Deciding to go into medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. I had 2 weeks vacation and I came down to stay with my dad. And fortunately, I got my transcripts from Randolph-Macon because I wanted to apply to the University of Illinois to go there and do graduate work. And then when the war came along, I canceled that. And at least I was told to cancel it. And so I had my transcripts. And VJ happened when I was down visiting my father. County there. And your father and mother and you, I think, got my cabin up in Camp Cook behind us, on the state parks up there, and then asked me to come up. And so I had a car at this point, drove up there to see them, but I stopped by Charlottesville and had decided to take my credentials with me. I walked in the dean's office and he saw me right away and looked at my transcripts and said, well, you got everything but don't have any biology. You got a semester of biology and you get in the next class. So I'd always wanted to go to California. So after VJ Day, was no longer essential. So I quit in the middle of October and drove out to the University of California. I found out I could get the semester of biology because they were on the accelerated program still at the University in Berkeley. For in time to get back to Virginia for school starting in April. So I went out to the university and I wasn't used to 10,000 students.
That's a big change from Randolph-Macon to Berkeley.
And 120 in the class and all that sort of thing. And I checked about going to med school out in California, but they were only taking 5 non-Californians at that time in med school. And the next class wasn't until September. While I was out there, I got official notice from Virginia that I was admitted if I wanted. So I better take the Virginia thing. Rather take my chance on not being able to get in September. So that's how I came on back here. So I sold my car and decided to take the train south to Los Angeles. I hadn't been there. And then I'd heard about Mardi Gras, but they said it was a good place to stay away from. So I took the Southern Pacific from LA to New Orleans and up to Charlottesville. And I got to LA. I spent a couple of days there. The Southern Pacific was supposed to talk about a strike or something. So I went to check in and decided, well, you better stay where you are or you may not get there. And I said, well, I checked out of the hotel. I haven't got any place to stay, so I'll stay on the train. So, but the strike didn't occur. But on a 5-day ride or whatever it was from LA to New Orleans, I counted on missing Mardi Gras on purpose because somebody said it was a good place to stay away from New Orleans City another time. But I thought Mardi Gras was over. And I had counted up the time, but I didn't realize that Sundays didn't count in Lent. So I arrived in New Orleans on Shrove Tuesday.
Oh my. A nice Methodist boy, New Orleans on Shrove Tuesday.
No place to stay. I had the hotel, but I wasn't. I kept going in and out. All the hotels, they take the furniture to the lobby and all that sort of thing. And it was already crowded. So I finally went to the Chamber of Commerce. I figured if they were putting on all this, they ought to have some place. So they found some place over in the black section. You had a railroad track. And I stayed there one night. I was coming home. I went to try to take the bus in to see the parades or whatever was going on downtown. And going back, somebody followed me from the bus home, and I got to the house before they did. But it wasn't a very new room. There had one light in the ceiling, and you could hear rats running up and down. So my ticket, I'm going to try to get to Charlottesville the next day, but I already had the ticket on the Southern, and they wouldn't change it. So I had to stay for 2 more days. Finally, I found another place to stay the next night.
That's good. A little nicer place?
Yeah. The place I had first time, they used the bathtub to store coal, bags of coal. And went in a place to take a bath. So, cause I'd been on the train for 5 days. So I did without a bath. So I got up to Richmond, and your mother and father were staying at on Monument Avenue at the time, and I spent the night with them. And was able to take a bath. Then I got the train on down. Well, I stopped in Charlottesville on the Southern and tried to find to see if I could get a place to stay in Charlottesville. I didn't think it'd be any problem having everything was filled up. I finally got a room with somebody I didn't know in one of the dorms at Charlottesville.
Oh.
So then I got the bus or something down to Richmond, and then spent the night with them, and then came on down to Dale.
1946, right? 1946.
Yeah, this was spring of '46. So that was my entrance to med school. But that has nothing to do with Randolph-Macon.
That's okay. It has to do with you. That's what we're...
What other questions you got?
And you entered in April?
Huh?
You entered in April of '46?
Yeah. They were decelerating. They'd been on around the clock schedule. And they were, we were the first post-war class, and so we went back in April for 2 months and took first anatomy and such then, and anatomy and biochemistry. And we had got off in June or such, and went back in September, and in September we were back on a semester basis. September to January, and then January to June for the West. So actually it was 4.5 years to finish med school rather than just the usual 4.
1950. Okay. Were you in touch with the Randolph-Macon chemistry professor, or any of your old professors during this time? Or not enough time to go to Ashland, I guess.
No. No, I kept in touch with any of them. Because I was in New Jersey and I didn't get back often. So I didn't go back to reunions till about 10th or 15th or something like that. I can't remember them. In fact, the 10th would have been in '47. No, I was in med school. I didn't go down.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember whether I went to the 15th or not. Because I didn't go to reunions every year. So that was about the only contact I had with Randolph-Macon much. And I came down here and would go periodically. And then I found out that at the Phi Beta Kappa instructions, they usually had a lecture. I got notices about those.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of them I went to, and some guy, I don't remember his name, he taught English. I wasn't an academician, and he didn't recognize people if they weren't academicians.
Oh.
He knew what I was doing at the meeting. So,
Was this at William and Mary?
huh?
Was the meeting at William and Mary since Phi Beta Kappa was founded there?
They had that meeting was just a lecture that they sent me in. It was Phi Beta Kappa initiation.
All Phi Beta Kappa initiates are supposed to be invited to every year when they initiate the new ones.
Oh, you were back on the Randolph-Macon campus.
There's a lecture series.
I was working. That's what after I came to work here, because I didn't have time or money either to run back and forth to Randolph-Macon. I didn't have transportation because I sold my car in California. Did without a car for 8 years. I couldn't, got to and fro in bus. So I didn't go to Randolph-Macon. But this was after I got in practice. I started getting invitations. After I'd been in practice, there was a urologist from Washington who was giving the talk, and I wanted to hear him, and I went up there. I can't think of this fellow's name. I think he's retired or something, but he was teaching history or English or something, but he was sort of a nose in the air.
Academic snob.
Yeah.
There are a few of those around.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he was the only one. The first experience. So I went to that one, and I didn't go anymore until they had the 100th or the 75th Phi Beta Kappa anniversary. Had a big bash with that, with Dr. Payne was there. I don't know, can't remember when Phi Beta Kappa was established at Macon.
Early. I should know, and I don't.
But this was either the 75th or the 100th. And they had a thing, they had I was in the gym. But I can't remember which year it was, which anniversary. But I haven't been getting any notices since. You're supposed to get one every year. I
thought they invited all the Phi Beta Kappa graduates every year, but I don't remember a Phi Beta Kappa lecture series for a while. So maybe they only do it if
This wasn't a lecture series. At the initiation, they usually have a lecture.
Yeah.
Every year.
Maybe they're not doing the lecture, maybe they're just doing an initiation.
I did get notices for a time after that, but I haven't had any for a long time.
I have to admit I'm not a Phi Beta Kappa graduate, so I'm not sure. Didn't quite make that. We'd also like to know a little bit about your scholarship and what inspired you to create a scholarship at Randolph-Macon.
Oh, because I didn't have any money. And so it might help somebody. In those days.
Is there a criterion I mean, I don't know about your scholarship. Is it for pre-medical students, or is it just a general scholarship?
It's for pre-med. My brother and I had one, the Wornom scholarship from our parents, and that's sort of a general one. The one I set up recently is for pre-med students. God, I'll set it up.
Would you like us to pause for a minute? We'd be happy to.
No, I usually don't have this much problem with them, but I give a certain amount of post-nasal drip. So.
The general scholarship that you have with my father's
Yeah.
leans towards business majors,
Yeah,
and that's because of my father.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's available to anyone who can benefit from it,
Yeah, but that's why I set up mine for.
specifically for medical students. I mean, for pre-med type.
And there's also a Wornom chair in biological sciences, correct?
Yeah,
And Dr. Nisley has that now?
I don't know who's
I think it is.
that was when I thought we couldn't give them money when I left. Anyway, so I thought they might get it now, so I gave them $1 million and they wanted. Doctor, who's the guy preceding Father Payne? One just left.
Before
Rusty.
President Dr. Martin.
Yeah. And at that time, they needed extra funds to compete with some grant, or to double count with some grant, so they could finish the Blackwell Auditorium. So $250,000 of it went to finish that, and the rest of it. He said they didn't have a chair in biology, so he didn't do that. So he was the one suggesting that he used to set up a chair in biology. So that's how that came about.
It's new.
Does that answer your question?
That answers my question. Also with us today is Mariah Rippey, who is Dr. Wornom's niece. And did you have any questions or anything you wanted to add about your family's contacts with Randolph-Macon?
Well, I guess what I would be interested to know is what impact the Depression had on Randolph-Macon in the 1930s when you were a student there. Not only from the point of view of the students attending, but the faculty. That was sort of what was marked that decade that you were there, in the same decade when my father graduated.
Yeah. Well,
Did the faculty stay generally during that time? Did the faculty was there not much turnover on the Randolph-Macon faculty during the 1930s?
No, the same ones.
Same ones.
Yeah, some were there when my oldest brother graduated in '23. Someone with Dr. Canna was there, and Dr. Simpson was there. Dr. Blackwell was the president, but he was never around. He was always off raising money or something. When I was there, he was in his 80s. But after I retired, Dr. Morgan took over. But the faculty did that thing. I didn't think they. I don't know whether they even had faculty meetings, but I presume they did. But I don't know.
Did the student body enrollment stay about the same during the 30s? So students were able to attend.
Yeah. It didn't increase any.
It stayed pretty much the same. So the economic of the country and the nation at that time didn't have that much of an impact on the quality of education, it sounds like. If once the student was able to get there.
But there wasn't any rush to get to school, because in '37 they were still getting over 30 depression, and it was hard to get a job. They were scarce. So, it wasn't until after 40 when we started doing munitions stuff and things to build up for World War II, helping the British and the French before we actually got in. But I don't know. I never was on campus when Dr. Mullen was there. But you rather saw Dr. Blackwell. We had chapel. Do you still have chapel, compulsory chapel? You had to go. You had chapel 5 days a week, but you had to go at least 4. You could miss 1 day a week.
One of the things we have in the archives is the chapel rolls, where they counted how many times you'd been there.
Yeah, it was the guy that sat on the aisle. I had to check whether you were there or not. And if you could, if you had extra chapel time, you could cut a class. If you had an extra day of chapel, you could cut a class.
I didn't know that.
I think it was equal 1 for 1. If you went an extra day in chapel, 5 days in chapel, you could cut a class the next week.
There's incentive.
We didn't have that at Agnes Scott in the 60s. We had to be at chapel and the rolls were still taken.
But you had to be sure you had the extra.
They checked.
And chapel, Dr. Blackwell, if he was on, around, was on campus, but would come, but he wasn't there. And Mr. Hatchett sort of took over. He or Dean Gannon for the chapel thing. Sometimes they'd bring in a program, but other times we just sing a hymn and have some prayers and whatever. But the chapel was a half hour.
I'd like to know whether the job market in the 1930s influenced your major. You said you were a double major in chemistry. Well, I knew you were a chemistry major, but I didn't know about the English component. Would you have taken more English if you could have used that?
I just liked English.
You just,
English literature. I just took it because I liked it.
And the chemistry was more, you took that for
I
a
liked
career.
That too, but I figured I didn't want to exactly be a teacher. So I didn't figure there was much point in an English major. That teaching. Because I had a Latin major too. I took all of Latin there. But to be Latin instructor, I had to take Latin every year from Dr. Bourne. And up my last year, I think there were 2 of us in the class.
Wow.
So great.
Paul, I know you were a good student and worked very hard. I also know that you attended all those chapel meetings. But in Ashland, when you weren't studying and weren't in chapel, what did you do for fun? Were there movie theaters? What did you do for entertainment in Ashland?
Well, when you could afford, you went to the movie. They were 25 cents. But that didn't change the program. But every so often, only one theater, and they'd have a movie. Sometimes it'd be 3 or 4 days. But the movies were better then, and at least I think. So I went to those. But also, there was an active program over in Richmond, and at the Lyric Theater. And they had these traveling groups, and I would on Saturdays I would scrape enough money to get a gallery seat somewhere and thumb a ride over. And I saw Nazimova and something, and the Ghost, I think it was. You can't take it with you. With Cohen, wasn't it? The Legon, the Eaglet, the Evil, the Galleon. And frequently I'd run up to Dr. Webb at the theater. I came out one door and he'd come and go out in the street. I'd go just get fresh air. He'd go out to smoke. I'd see him down on the street smoking. The Lyric Theater was there somewhere on Broad Street. Yeah, right down near the Capitol. Well, they also had an opera season at the mosque, but I wasn't enthused about the opera, but Charlie Romaine from Petersburg liked it, and his family got him tickets. He gave me one. So after I saw the was the San Carlo Opera House thing, I toured around, and that was my introduction to opera. And then you go to the gym and play tennis when the weather permitted. Go to the gym and swim, such. But also in the fraternity house we played bridge. You usually try to get 4 people to play bridge. That's when I learned more about bridge. Of course, it was strictly auction, and it hadn't signed the contract. And of course, a lot of people who lived nearby would go home for weekends. But so if you didn't have much of a weekend, if you didn't have a Saturday class, they'd go home. Ligon Jones, who lived in Hopewell, he had a car. And, he didn't have the Saturday classes, so he went home every weekend. But there weren't very many cars around. They packed up. I think, well, you couldn't have a car your freshman year. And after that, only 1 or 2 people had them, as I recall.
Were there sports rallies? What about the sports teams? Were there sports rallies and things like you would have now?
No, we didn't have them pre-game. The night before rallies, and sports were not a big item in those days. They had teams, but and you went to the game on Saturday afternoon. There wasn't a college group that was cheering. Didn't have cheerleaders, such.
How about the Randolph-Macon Hampton-Sydney game? Was that a contest?
Well, we talked about it, but it wasn't any different from any other game. That's how I recall. I mean, they didn't have any special rooting section, no gals to things around. Because we were in the women. We had 3 or 4 girls lived in town. Cast like that, but there were no full-time students. Well, they were full-time, but I don't know how those were picked to allowed to come. Maybe they the only women in Ashland that went to college. I don't know.
Was that Locke Spencer? There's now was it Locke Spencer? Was she there at Locke Spencer?
Yeah. She was a couple of years behind me. So she lived down the end of College Avenue, and she walked around. I was turned out she was walking by the fraternity house. But there wasn't the school spirit like they have now in those days. Because you didn't have a girl. Occasionally, if you had transportation, you'd go up to Fredericksburg. But the girls couldn't leave you to sit in the parlor in the dawn. And Wednesday night was date night if you had a car and could go up there. It seemed like further in those days the road wasn't as good. And I think I went once, but I decided it wasn't worth it. My blind date didn't turn.
Remain blind, right? Which of the faculty members that you had studied with had probably the most impact on your future? Or it sounds like all of them, actually. That
well, I knew them all.
You knew them all.
I don't know how much impact they had collectively. I don't remember any marked individual impact. I like to talk to Dr. Webb. When I was worked with Dr. Bowen, he lives down College Avenue from the maternity house, and a lot of times if he was going to give a quiz, I'd give the quiz and he wouldn't come, and then I'd have to read the papers and take them to him to check. So I saw fair amount of him, but the chemistry people were busy. Dr. Updike was doing research, and Dr. Campbell was the dean, and he was busy with that. And the math people I stayed away from. I wasn't real friendly with them. Because I had trouble with college algebra.
I can remember you helping me with when I was in 6th grade with my math. I wasn't doing very well with math at that point.
Not my subject.
Well, anything else on your list?
There is nothing else on my list. Anything else you want to share with us?
Any questions that you might have?
Library.
Yeah, the library.
Could you tell us a little bit about what it was like to study at the library then? Or didn't you go?
I just went to the library to check out a book. We didn't study in the library.
Oh, it's just a repository of books.
Yeah, as far as I know. But I used to check out, I'd go over and read books, and then take them out, check them out, and read them.
We don't have any photographs of
No.
students studying in the library, and we thought it was just because we didn't have any. It was not a place where students studied.
Huh.
No,
That
no,
I
it's interesting.
really show. Because the library's right there back at the old gym.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what we now call Peel Hall.
Well, where's the library now?
It's across the street, across from the campus center.
Across which street?
It's across Henry Street.
Henry Street.
Yeah, it's over Henry Street and down a block from Peel Hall.
Very nice.
Now, if you run into special places, you studied your room.
Okay.
But that's why I was surprised when I got to Charlottesville, found in med school, people went to the library to study. Go into stacks and go to a place and study. But, well, there's none of that around Macon.
Was the librarian nice, or did they go shh a lot in the library?
Well, I just went in and browsed to see what books they had, or if I picked the other particular one. But she was over, there was only about 2 of them, as I recall. The head librarian and one other. I never did run into many students in the library. But I'd hear about a book and
Did you have textbooks for the classes? Did you?
oh yeah.
What about textbooks? Would you buy them or?
Well, you
recycle them?
Recycle them to them second hand. And of course, in that time you had to furnish your room too. You had to have your own room furniture.
Bed included?
Bed included?
Bedding?
Yeah.
I mean the mattress?
So I'm watching to finish the year in June. Now, so I was in September, and I just use his.
Oh, convenient.
A chair and a desk and a bed.
In the same dorm room, or?
Yeah.
Which dormitory did you live in?
It was called the New Dome in those days. There's the New Dome, the Old Dome. The New Dome is the one they remodeled.
Thomas Branch?
There's Thomas Branch. The other one was Mary Branch. Yeah. Mary Branch was the Old Dome. And there's a certain amount of rivalry between the Old Dome and the New Dome. Nothing extensive. These New Dome people thought they were better than the Old Dome.
don't think the dorms were very different, were they?
Did you have exam books, or did you have what we had in the 60s? I don't know if they still use them. Like these blue exam books when you would take exams? No? You just used whatever paper you had? Oh, okay. When exam books came in.
We had an honor system, and I don't remember having any proctors or such. In fact, I think the president gave it the exam, and he left. I mean, the professor did. As I recall, he just left. You turn the papers in when you finish. So you still have the honor system.
We still have an honor code, but the faculty stay in the room.
As I recall, they handed out exams and that.
Yeah, they did that into the 80s. I had many professors who then would say, "I'm in my office if you have any questions," and they would leave.
Occasionally they'd come back and see if people had questions.
So the train station in Ashland was a very active train station at that time, and you were coming and going. That was used more frequently for transportation than cars, or
Well, the RF&B had more train, and but all of them coming through didn't stop. Some of them did, but there was actually Richmond, Washington Coal Line electric line. It came into Ashland and went down Brook Run Road and came in up on Upper Broad Street. Let me see.
Broad Street Station.
Broad Street. They'd come into Broad Street Station. There was a special building, a train where they came in.
And there were electric cars.
Trolleys. But they stopped running at 12 o'clock, I think, or something like that. But we usually get the bus out to end of Chamberlain Road and stand there and thump around.
And then thumb.
In those days, people picked up thumbs.
Did you have to dress for classes? Did you have to wear a necktie or a coat? Or didn't?
There was no dress code.
There was no dress code.
Not like Charlottesville where you wore a coat regardless. When I went to med school, I found out you didn't appear in public without a coat on. Yeah, that's changed too now, I think.
Wow.
So Randolph-Macon did not have a dress code.
No.
Well, you had to dress for chapel, didn't you?
No,
No?
I don't think so. But you usually wore sweaters. Didn't many people wear jackets in those days. At least when we came off, you may have one suit and some slacks and maybe one sport coat. Because Virginia, when I got there, was quite different. Well dressed, all that sort of stuff.
A little more formal.
Well, in the sense that if Virginia didn't speak to somebody unless you'd been introduced to them. And I went there. At that time, that's different now. Randolph-Macon was all informal. You knew and spoke to everybody on whether you knew their names or not. But in Virginia, in those days, you didn't speak to somebody unless you'd been introduced. Get done away with that, I think. There's quite a difference between the two structures, two schools at that point.
Well, speaking of that, at Virginia, it's first, second, and third year. Were you freshman, sophomore, and junior at Randolph-Macon? What did you call your years? Was it first year or?
Yeah. Well, no, you were a freshman, sophomore.
So okay, you used that.
You were senior, yeah. They use that. It wasn't college hazing, but the fraternity initiation was another thing.
I was going to ask you about fraternity life in those days. Did you do any singing? Of course, you had your chapter meetings and that sort of thing in your initiation, but
Yeah.
what was fraternity life like?
Well, it's a place to play bridge.
Yes.
That's good. On occasion, we'd get around the piano and sing, but that was rare. And then dance weekends where everybody came to a fraternity house. But most of the time, you just sit around and shoot the breeze. And, if you played something, play bridge.
Okay, too much.
And of course, you had to study too. So, and we didn't have radios going loud. You went to your room and studied.
Did you use radios much?
Huh?
Were there many radios on
I
campus?
don't recall that there were. At that time, it was for 33. I didn't have one. I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about telephones? Were there many telephones on the campus? Or was it more telegraph for long-distance communication? Telegram.
Well, I had one in the place to send telegrams, and I think there was one a payphone in each dorm, maybe, but in the entrance. That was very all it was. They were all payphones. There was no room phone. Let's see.
How about laundry?
Huh?
How'd you do laundry?
I sent it home.
Send it home.
Yeah, everybody had these little plastic laundry things, and you'd tie it up and send it home, and get it back. So,
You're kidding, really?
you know,
And your mother would send it back?
she sent it to the laundry room.
Would she put food in there too?
Huh?
Would she add some food or cake or
There
something?
was occasionally she put some cake.
Cake in there, or cookies.
But most people sent the laundry home. If you had the money, there's a laundry in town you could use. But everybody would take their thing down to the post office and mail it.
Wow. With even students who lived a greater distance than you did, they'd still mail it home.
So a lot of them did, yeah.
Oh my.
If they could afford it, then they had it done in town, but that was too expensive in those days. There was only one drugstore, and then one theater down, a couple of blocks down from where the drugstore was. The drugstore was right across from the train station. But I don't. A lot of the people went to other boarding houses. There was one, I think, right by the old Dome, there were some 2 or 3 houses, residence houses, and one of those was a boarding house. Anything could rent it. And then around the corner, behind the drugstore, was another one that was pretty good. I stayed in Midwest for a couple of years. She was right there on College place, on College Avenue. And then the other was Miss Carter, was moved around behind it. I don't know how the street is now. It was street went off to 33, I think, going through, and right around the corner there. It was Miss Carter's place. But there was no cafeteria, there's no restaurants downtown that I know of. If you could go down to Route 1, there's Perigori's where you get a hamburger. There's a service station that hamburgers. It was on Route 1 right at the end of College Avenue. It comes out.
So the administration of the college was really focused on just the academics, the education. They had little else to concern them with, like food service and.
The coach was around, but he didn't teach any courses that I knew about. But there was only one coach. Well, I had a football coach, and he taught coach baseball. There was one coach track, and I don't know what they did about basketball. But see, in those days, you couldn't dance on campus.
Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't have,
It's that Methodist thing.
we couldn't have any dances in the gym.
Oh.
And my last year there, the board of trustees decided we could have dance in the gym. We used to have dances at the Armory in Ashland. We had the dances. And there always one or two has got gassed and voted to have bootleg. Bootleg stuff. All the big dances, some of them turned out to be brawls at the Armory. But when we started having them in the gym, they were more up to date.
Better chaperoned, maybe?
Well, they had chaperones.
Wow.
So some of the ladies in town were chaperones. Faculty wives you didn't see much of for some reason. I don't remember seeing any faculty wives much.
The only faculty wife we hear about is Mrs. Webb, but she was involved in several things.
Oh, well, they didn't get married for years. She had a boarding house. She ran the Henry Clay Inn before she got married. Can't think of her name. But she was Dr. Webb was a bachelor, and she was an old maid, and they must have been in their 40s when they got married finally. If that's the same, you talking about Stanford.
Stanford Webb.
Stanford Webb's wife.
So she stayed involved after she married. She stayed involved with the community.
But, I don't know what she did with her boarding house when she stopped running the inn. She managed to leave the Henry Clay Inn. Yes, name's on the tip of the tongue. Pancoast. Maiden name. But I don't know when they got married, because I left in 1937. It was 8 or 10 years after that, I think, before they got married.
I'm curious to know if Herman ever came back. Your brother Herman, did he ever come back while you were there? Or no? He was off in New York or wherever. I know my father just seemed to have. He kept going back. He never really left. He was always going out there.
He was in Richmond.
Yes.
And it was convenient. And he was much more interested in sports and such, and Herman wasn't. I think Herman went back for some special reunion or something.
But other than that, he never went. Fascinating.
The Methodist church was upstairs and over the chapel. Whether that's still the way it is or not.
The Methodist Church has built another building.
And so Dr. Cannon taught Sunday school, and I was upstairs in the church. He's, a lot of students went to his Sunday morning Sunday school class, and so normally I stayed for church too. But they weren't all Methodist. but there weren't many Catholics, and of course there were no blacks, and I don't remember any Jewish students when I was there. At that time, I don't think there were any.
Never heard of one.
Where,
Predominantly Methodist students.
and I remember Hatcher was a Methodist minister, but he was a bigot. When they finally allowed dancing on the campus, he issued an order to all the members of the caucus, the ones saying that they couldn't go.
And Clericus was big. That's a lot of the student body.
And I wrote, when I was editing the paper, I wrote an editorial about it. I didn't get called in. So.
Any other incidents like that on the campus?
I remember that one. Of course, the dorms were in horrible shape, but never clean. When I didn't edit the paper, I wrote a couple of editorials about cleaning up the dorms and having better cleaning. So they finally did do something about that. They had people who were supposed to clean, but the room was just you had to make your own bed and furnish your own linens and all that. But they'd sweep, supposedly sweep. And some of them had these oil floors too. Put used cylinder oil or something on the floor in the summer instead of painting it. And that was supposed to keep the dust down and all that. That seems so long ago.
So what other editorials did you write, or comments would you make as the editor of the paper? How did you?
Well, they're the only two that I remembered particularly.
Did you have a comment on any of the worldwide issues or the Virginia, any of the Virginia politics, anything
They
of
weren't
that?
global.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody much was interested in politics.
So as the war was fermenting in Europe and the
Well, you didn't think about it.
You didn't think about that, all right.
33, 37. Nobody thought about the war in Europe.
I was thinking 39 when Hitler was beginning to.
Well, I wasn't around. I was working.
Oh, that's right. You graduated in 37. That's right. Yeah.
Worked in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So we didn't hear any of that on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And but people did not spend all that time studying, but I don't know what they did do in other school places. And a few of them did have radios, but everybody didn't have a radio.
Yeah, so it's a little different. You didn't hear as much as we do today of what's going on globally.
I remember Chella Romaine, who was pre-med, and I had a radio. And on Sunday night there was some special program I went down to listen to on his radio. I can't think what the program was now. Eddie Cantor and stuff, as I remember, on some radio show. Oh, well, there was Fred Allen.
Jack Benny, yeah.
And, Jack Benny, Eddie Cantor occasionally. But Fred Allen's show was Sunday night.
That's right.
Was Amos and Andy on then?
Not Sunday night.
Okay.
That was Fred Allen and Jack Benny.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd go down to Charlie Romaine's radio and listen to that with him. But other than that, everybody stayed busy doing something, but I don't know just what.
I think that hasn't changed either.
Same thing we do now.
But a lot of them did. The guys who went into Richmond frequently on Saturday. But what they did, because of course you couldn't get beer then.
That's right.
Prohibition went out in '34, but you couldn't buy beer on a certain section.
Of Richmond.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, certain cities.
So was Richmond dry or not?
You could buy.
You could buy dry,
Richmond.
right in Richmond.
Couldn't buy anything hard though. Yeah. They had the lockers and the bottle clubs in those days.
That's true in our day.
And Paraguay's down Route 1 had wine.
Really?
But they
Really?
They didn't have beer.
Huh.
That was after Prohibition.
Uh-huh.
That's right. You get what they called a cocktail where they put a sugar cube in some wine. You remember that?
No.
That's terrible.
I never tried that.
Sugar cube and wine.
Because I didn't like wine. So I never did have a bottle, and I recall.
There's no California wine in those days in Virginia.
Well, thank you very much for allowing us to tape you today, and we appreciate you all joining in and helping us with this project. Thank you very much.
I don't think I've told you anything you hadn't heard, probably.
Yeah, you have.